So Matt asked me to do something a little bit different for you guys because you're special. So he wanted me to first, before we're basically in this, because it's so private, it's not like there's 1,000 people in here. We're going to break down the sales process from A to Z, okay? So A to Z over the next 2 days. And we're going to break down everything in the middle. We're going to role play, because how many of there are you? 30, some of you, something like that. So we're going to do a lot of role playing, and we're going to do a lot of constructive feedback as a group. All of you in here are really, really good at sales. I would say there's some of you that are really, really great. I would even classify some of you as #savages, but none of you are legends yet. And I say yet because you just haven't learned yet. Some of you are actually really close, but there's just a few more steps that you actually need to get to that level. We're going to try to break some of those down. Now, before we go into like A to Z, Matt wanted me to talk to you about what does it take internally, like the way we think, to actually be a top performer. A lot of you understand that I'm not a big person on like, oh my gosh, I gotta listen to 6 hours of Tony Robbins on Monday before I start my sales calls, or I've got to meditate 30 minutes every morning before I jump in the shower, or I have to work out from 5 to 5:45 and then journal from 5:45 to 6:15 and all this stuff. That's all great, but when the prospect picks up the phone, when you get on Zoom with them or wherever you communicate with your prospect, none of that really matters when they smack you in the mouth, okay? You have to know what to say, and more importantly, what to ask, and the delivery of how to do that for the prospect to actually want to open up to you, even if it's on an inbound call, which most of you, I believe, do inbound leads, okay? You have it easy compared to people who cold call or do outbound leads, all right? But it doesn't matter. You have to disarm the prospect every time you talk to them, especially in the beginning of a call. It's all about disarming the prospect. It's about disarming the prospect every 30 seconds of that sales process, all the way until they send the actual funds and they hit the bank account, and then 3, 4, 5 days later, they're past their cancellation period. It's about disarming the prospect from A to Z. That's what I mean by A to Z. Now, how do we think? What are some traits? Now, there's a lot of traits, but I try to boil these down to what I did as a sales professional in my sales career, okay? Now, the good thing is our training portal right now, our 3.0 version is, I believe, 21 hours. We're about to add another 3 hours the first part of 2022 just on this topic. So you guys should have access to that, okay? So the first thing I want you to write down, and we'll print, do we have printers here? Do we have a printer here?
I can take care of anything you need.
Okay. If we can get a printer here, we can actually print this off sometime. We don't have to do it today, but it'd be good for them to take home. We can actually print it to them, or we can email it to them, whatever we need to do. So the first thing I want you to write down is you have to resign from the company club. Now, what the hell does that mean? Resign from the company club? Because the company club kind of sounds cool. You see, the company club, especially when you start to work in an office, but it could even happen virtually, are the salespeople. You guys know who I'm talking about. It might be one of you, I don't know, okay? But the company club is the one that blames everything else on everything but themselves, on everybody but themselves. There's always the bad leads. We got a bad manager, we got bad comps, we got bad prospects, we got bad everything. The product service that I sell for sucks. There's no fulfillment. Prospects have fear. Prospects all broke. You have to resign from that company club because most salespeople are in the company club. It doesn't matter. Any company I go into, when I sold, most salespeople are in the company club. And you know who the people in the company club were? The ones who actually joined the company club, who got the membership, the card. It was all the average salespeople and the really bad salespeople. They're always in the company club. That is a club you never want to be in. You never want to join the company club. So a few notes here that I've got for you. That's why I love small events. I can always write down notes on my cheat code here. Okay, let's talk about this. I always hear this one. Oh, it's not my fault. My sales were down this month. Prospects just have a bunch of fear. I really hear it in your industry that you guys are in. When you sell like training and coaching, I hear that one all the time when I'm training sales. People are like, oh my gosh, like the prospects, they just have fear, just a bunch of fear. Well, no shit, Sherlock. It's your job to help them overcome the fear. Any sales position you're in, I don't care if you're here and you're selling some type of coaching, training program, if you sell life insurance, if you sell boats, if you sell real estate, if you sell SaaS, if you sell cybersecurity, it doesn't matter. Guess what? Prospects have fear. That's just the way we're wired as human beings. It's human behavior 101, okay? Remember, I talk about this a lot. All selling is what? It is change. That's all sales is, change. Write that down. Think about it. All selling is change at the end of the day. It's about how good you are at getting your prospects to view in their mind, not by telling them, because that just goes in one ear out the other, but by getting them to understand from your questioning ability that where they are now, their current state, compared to where they want to be, we call that their objective state, their future. What's the gap in between? All of their problems that your questions have helped them see that they have, that more than likely they didn't even understand they had before they got on that call with you, okay? So all sales is change. It's about how good you are at getting your prospects to view that in their mind, it is far more riskier for them to do nothing at all, staying in the status quo, their problems stay the same, nothing ever changes, than it is for them to get the funding together to purchase what you're offering and have what they want. Which is more risky? Okay? That's all sales is change. So, you have to understand how to get your prospects to overcome that way of thinking that's allowed them to stay in the situation they're in. That's why they booked on the call, right? Most of you do inbound leads. Do everybody do inbound leads here for the most part? Okay. They booked on the call. They've raised their hand saying, help me. Now, they might not really know. They might be like, oh, I'm just curious, I'm just looking. But at the end of the day, they wouldn't have booked the call, taken the time, unless they had what? Some type of problem or issue that they thought they had. Now, maybe they didn't know how bad that was. Maybe they didn't understand that they have this problem, but really, from your questioning skills, you're able to help them find 3 or 4 other problems they didn't even realize they had. Maybe they didn't really understand how bad their problems really were. Maybe they didn't understand the consequences of what would happen if they didn't do anything about solving the problems, okay? So it's your job as a sales professional to help them overcome that fear. So, when we have office space here in Scottsdale, but as the company grows, maybe you're here, maybe you're somewhere else. Maybe we have an office on the East Coast. We're about to open an office in 2022 in Dubai. Most of you probably don't know that, okay? So we have an office in Sydney. Some of you might be there. Maybe you moved to Sydney. I don't know. But when you get in the office environment, or even if you're working virtually, you cannot hang around people who talk like this, who complain, okay? Top performers never do this. Like in my corporate career, when I was in sales, just like you guys, okay? My first probably 10 years of my sales career, I worked in office space, okay? And the below average performers, the average performers would always go in the break room. They would take breaks all the time. They would go out to lunch all the time. They would go hang out all the time. While me and like people who were actually making a ton of money, what were we doing? We were actually calling leads. We were working. We weren't complaining. When we got together, you know what we focused on? Solutions on how to sell more. How do we sell more? What do you say? So like if I would get in a room, even with somebody that maybe made a third of what I made, and I'd be like, so when the prospect says this, what do you typically say or what do you ask? Now, why would I want to learn from somebody that's down here, or maybe I'm up here sales-wise? Because I can still take something that they really know how to do good, and I might be like, you know what, if we did this and if we change that question around, it might even be better, okay? So you should always be learning, all right? So if you're going to hang out with people that come up with solutions on how to sell more. Okay, if you're on a group call and people are complaining, say, hey, let's stop complaining, let's start doing. Let's figure out a solution to this problem. There's always going to be problems, but let's figure it out. Now, let's move on. Prospect time blocking. This was big for me. So when I was in sales, I didn't have people just booked on my calendar all day like you guys. You guys are easy, people book on your calendar, okay? I had to go out and get people to actually want to book on the calendar. Now, we had some leads. I'd probably get about 30, maybe 40, maybe 50% of my leads would actually book, or they'd respond to some type of ad back in the day, I guess we would call it, okay, from Google AdWords. We did a lot on AdWords and stuff, and we would call them. But about half of my income I made was from me just reaching out and calling companies and cold calling, okay? Had I not done that, my income, well, it would have been half of what it was, okay? So prospect time blocking. So, you know, with you guys, since you have it easy and people book on your calendar, you need to, in between, let's say somebody doesn't show up. What are you doing? Are you just like, oh man, that sucks. Like, I can't believe they didn't show up. That's a fourth one this week. Son of a biscuit, mother of Mary. Like, what am I going to do? No. Do you have leads that maybe didn't buy 3-4 months ago? Where are they at? Do you have a pipeline process to get them back in? I think Will does a pretty good job of that. You were talking about that the other day. So it's all about prospect time blocking. And if somebody doesn't show up, do you have a list of people to call? Like, you should be prepared every day and know what you're going to do if prospects don't show up. That way you maximize your time. Let's move on. Now, when you do this, so when you talk strategy and solutions with other salespeople, you become what? You become contagious. People want to be around you, okay? People look at you as like a sales leader when you're looking for solutions. All right, let's move on to number 2. We don't have a lot of time here. And that is be committed. All right. So right now, what do you do on a daily basis to show yourself that you're committed? I don't care about you showing other people. Who cares? What are you doing right now today to show you that you are not 100% committed, but 1,000% committed? When I say this gentleman's name, I want you to think about what's the first thing that you think about in your mind, the first word that comes to your mind. Marco Cortese. Hard worker. What else? What's the first thing that, like the first word that comes to your mind? When I say Marco Cortese, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Innovative, consistent. What?
I said Italian, if I'm being honest.
Italian? Okay, what else? He's committed. He's driven, he's committed. Now, what's the first image that comes to your mind when I say Marco Cortese?
Almost no buttons, but.
Exactly.
True? Okay. Okay. Here's the first image that comes to my mind is this dude's just working. When I think of him, he's just working. He's always working, okay? You know, he was messaging me at about 5:30 this morning, which is about 11:30 at night his time, and he's like, all right, I just got this done and blah, 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 blah. But he was also messaging me like 15 hours before when he was actually working in the office, quote unquote, okay? That's not 100% committed. That's like 1,000% committed. There's a difference between salespeople who are 100% committed, because that's really, should be everybody. Everybody should be committed, okay? That's just basics, but who's 1,000% committed, okay? So what are you doing on a daily basis? One good thing that you probably should, well, you definitely should do, is every night before you go to bed, you should write down your to-do list of things you have to accomplish the next day. I see so many people write down a to-do list, great, but they do it in the morning when they get in their office, okay? Not so great. When you do it at night, one of the first things I learned from the first sales event I actually went to 20 years ago when I was in college was a gentleman by the name of Brian Tracy. It was the first event that I ever went to. Pretty good friends with Brian now. We did our first ever product. NEPQ came out with him 3 years ago, before any of you were born. And what Brian taught me was to write a to-do list the night before I went the night before I went to bed. So that way in the evening when I was sleeping, subconsciously, I was thinking about everything I needed to accomplish the next day. So when I wake up and get in the office, I already know what I'm going to do. I already know how to do that. I think about it, my brain thinks about it while I'm sleeping. If you wait till in the morning, you just don't know what's going on. It takes you a couple hours to figure out what's going on and you've wasted time. So write down a to-do list, okay? Now, so that's one of your daily habits. What's another routine that you do to achieve success? Think about that for a second. What's a few things that you do right now to make sure that you're achieving success? Are you studying sales each day? Or is that something you did like a few weeks ago, a couple months ago? You're good now, You don't need to learn anything else. Okay? So what are you doing there? Now, this question here, what does discipline mean to you? What does discipline mean to you? Anybody?
Leading yourself.
What's that, Will?
Leading yourself.
In what way?
Always. So literally, if you have an outcome that you're committed to,
Yeah.
it's working backwards on how you lead yourself to get to that outcome, no matter what.
Yeah, you're disciplined, right? When you think of Marco Cortese, that's another thing that comes to mind. He's extremely disciplined. When I think of Matt Ryder, our CEO, he's extremely disciplined, okay? You have to be disciplined if you want to be great at sales. You can't be like, oh, God, I'm so tired. I was out late last night. I think I'm just going to sleep in till like 10. I don't have my first appointment till 11. So I'll sleep until like 10:30. Just kind of drag myself in there. That's not really discipline, okay? Think about this, like anybody, basketball fans? Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, right? Okay. Think of if you read what he wrote, and if you've watched any of his videos or any speaking engagements he's ever talked about, that dude was extremely disciplined. So they'd win an NBA title, and then like a few days later, he's getting up at not 6 or 7 in the morning, but like freaking 4 in the morning and going in and practicing. That's discipline. But do you know why he's considered probably one of the top 5 basketball players ever? Do you know why he made tens of millions of dollars every year and was always paid the most? Because he out-disciplined everybody else. Do you think anybody coming out of college was as good as Kobe Bryant? For sure, 100%. Probably had more experience. He started in the NBA when he was 17, 18, crazy. Didn't even play college ball. I would say most people that came out of college, played 2 or 3 years, a lot of them that got drafted were probably better. But he was more disciplined. He's just more disciplined. He outworked them, he outlearned them, and he learned the game. He became a student of the game. Look at Tom Brady. That dude doesn't look that athletic. But do you know what separates him from all the other quarterbacks? He's just a lot more disciplined. See how you can apply that being a sales professional? You just have to be more disciplined than everybody else. You have to be willing to do things, and we'll talk about that in a second. So if you want to be great, then you have to be willing. This is the biggest motto in my life. If you want to be great, then you have to do what others are not willing to do. You have to do what others are not willing to do. Like in my mind, our methodology is great, but if I want it to be even greater than it is, I have to be willing to do what others are not willing to do. You know, Marco asked me the other night, he said, why don't you take a couple weeks off? No, I can't. I'm too disciplined. Can't do that right now. We're not at a level where I can. I don't want to. I would feel weird. I would feel like nude, walking around like on a nude beach. Too much discipline, okay? I have to outlearn our competitors. That's what I do. I have to outlearn them, okay? Now, question. So when we train companies now, you know what one of the biggest questions, I would say the number one question we have them ask salespeople that they're about to hire? Has anybody ever heard me talk about this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How much you invested on your sales in the last year?
Yeah, like how much money did you personally put into your own sales training to improve your sales ability last year? And if they say, oh, the company paid for this, that's a red flag. Now they're put more to the bottom compared to the people who actually invested in their skills. So look at yourself. Like what are you doing? Like what are you investing? Your biggest investment right now, especially at a young age that pretty much all of you are at, is just investing in yourself and learning advanced skills that I can pretty much guarantee you people your age are not doing, okay? All right, let's keep moving on. Be prepared. Let's talk about this for a second. This is really important. This one really, really irks me, okay? You're on sales calls every single day. When I see salespeople like, I don't know how to overcome this objection. I don't know. I'm like, well, how many times do you get that objection? Do you get that objection like every day? Yeah. Well, what the hell are you doing? You get the same, like how prepared are you for your sales calls? You get the same objections every day, every week. Do you know exactly what to do on every one of them? Or are you hoping and praying that they just don't come up? hoping and praying is not going to make you a lot of sales, all right? Because guess what? They're going to come up. And how do you feel, TC, how do you feel when you got an objection early on, but then later you learned how to overcome it, and so when it hits you, now it's just like nothing? What's the difference?
There's a big difference in my opinion. Just you're not reactive anymore.
Yeah.
The prospect senses that too.
Prospect can sense it. It's not just you. The prospect subconsciously is picking up on social cues from you based on your tonality. Okay, if you're on Zoom, your body language. If you're in person, your body language based on your tonality and what you are saying and or asking, that's triggering their brain to react a few different ways. We'll talk about that as we go today. Okay, but just realize when you talk with the salesperson, what is your brain doing? We're like freaking the Terminator, man. Like we've got that little inner red thing. It's like we're scanning like their nervous system. You guys know what I'm talking about. That's what every person does with you, even if they book on your calendar, okay? So you got to be prepared. There's no excuse to not be prepared for every sales call, to not be prepared for every objection. We need to think about it. Can I talk to my wife, my uncle, my girlfriend who lives in Dubai, my this, my that? Like, who cares? You have to be prepared. There's really no excuse for any objection you get, okay? And you have to do what? You have to rehearse, all right? I'm big on this, okay? What I find in the coaching industry and the training industry that you guys are in is that since you're working from home, you're working maybe in an office, you're on a computer screen, they're on their computer Zoom, it's not in person, that sometimes those type of salespeople get extremely lazy and they have like their script and their questions like plastered up on the wall and they're looking and I'm not sure. You have to memorize those questions, okay? Sometimes I love like salespeople that have to go into a boardroom or they have to knock on doors because they can't write the questions down on their arm and glance at those. They have to do what? They have to rehearse their lines. They have to memorize what they're going to say. They have to know what to do. Anytime the prospect reacts, they know exactly where to go. You have to do that as well because they're picking up on your what? Your tonality. Has anybody ever heard somebody that sounds very scripted on a sales call? Okay, has anybody sounded scripted on a sales call? Okay, so do you see how that? So if you can hear that, can your prospects pick up on that? Okay, they pick up on that. And when the moment they feel like they're being sold, and you're just asking questions because you're going down your paper of questions, like an interrogation, is the moment they start to do what?
Sales resistance.
Sales resistance. And even if they don't try to get rid of you, which is typically what an A-type personality will be, they'll be like, can you just get to the point? What's this all about? Just tell me more about it. Just tell me how much is it going to cost? If they're more of a passive personality, they just do what? They just disengage. They don't open up. You ask them a question, they give you a 2-word answer. That is because we're triggering that. It's not the prospect's fault. It's our fault because we are triggering that behavior from that person. So I want you to start realizing that. When you get off a sales call and you're like, they just didn't open up, what's the first thing you should do? What did I do wrong? What did I not ask? Where did that call go wrong? See, when you start doing that and you analyzing that way, that's when you start to become much, much better rather than blaming the prospect. Oh, all the prospects are broke. Oh, that guy just has so much fear. Like, don't go to that ball game. You're not going to get great if you go to that ball game. Analyze yourself and like, what did I do wrong? When Marco sometimes gets off like a big B2B call and he's like, man, I lost it because I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do this. Well, guess what? When he's on another call, he's a lot more prepared, okay? Because he didn't blame them, he blamed himself, all right? That's where you have to be if you want to be great, right? So you have to rehearse your lines. So, favorite actress, favorite actor. Somebody tell me your favorite actor. Adam Sandler, okay, I like it. Somebody tell me their favorite actress. Okay, all right. All right, so Megan Fox and Adam Sandler. All right, so you guys like their movies. Did you know that everything they say in their movies is what? Scripted. freaking scripted. They don't just get up there and make up BS. It's all scripted. But does it sound scripted? No, because if it didn't, they wouldn't be famous. They'd still be the waiter or waitress in Hollywood trying to make it. That's the difference. So when you watch Megan Fox or Adam Sandler, and because it doesn't sound scripted, you start to view them as the character they're portraying. You don't view them as Megan Fox or Adam Sandler, or let's say George Clooney's my favorite actor. When you watch George Clooney, he doesn't sound scripted. You view him as the person he's portraying. And as a sales professional, you want to get to that level because you've memorized your lines. You've memorized the questions. Now, does that take work? Well, yeah. But nobody ever became great without any work, without any discipline, without any commitment. It's the same in any profession. Kobe Bryant, committed, disciplined, worked, outlearned. Megan Fox, same thing. Adam Sandler, same thing. Everybody that's ever done anything great, committed, disciplined, outlearned other people. You see where we're going with this, okay? Especially in sales, all right? All right, so you have to be prepared. Now, here's another thing I'm big on. I wanted to throw you a little curveball, a little change-up, okay? You have to treat all of your prospects with respect, even if they don't buy from you. I'm serious about this, okay? You never talk down to a prospect if they don't buy. Now, that doesn't mean that you're just like a softie, like, oh, I hope, please just call me back if you're ever interested. No, you still challenge their way of thinking, but you don't talk down to them like you're an idiot, like you're so stupid that you don't buy that. Never, ever do that. That is a red flag. You know, I never do business with anybody that talks down with somebody that's below their status. If I'm at a restaurant, I've done this multiple times, and there's maybe an investment that this guy wanted me to make or this gal wanted me to make, and they treated the waiter or waitress like with massive disrespect, like, oh, can you just like disrespectful really bad, that's a red flag for me. So you never want to be around people that treat people that maybe are at a lower status at that point in their life as somebody that's beneath them. That should be a red flag to everybody, okay? I wanted to throw you a little curveball, but it's really important there. So never talk down to your prospects. Now, like I said, there's a difference in talking down compared to challenging them. You have to challenge their way of thinking that's allowed their situation and problems to keep happening. But you do that in a way where they view you as somebody who's like an expert, who's an authority, who's a trusted authority. That way, even if they don't buy, they still respect you. And when they respect you, they what? They trust you. And that doesn't mean that they don't come back around a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later. How many sales have you guys gotten in the past because somebody really respected you, but maybe they just couldn't get the funding or something happened, and then 3 months later you just get this message and they're like, hey, I've got the funds together. Does that happen? So you know you're doing something right, okay? If you never get that, then you know that people feel that you're putting them down rather than challenging them. There's a massive difference in that way of thinking, all right? All right, now this is one of the biggest ones. This is really important because you can do everything I just put. You can be committed. Well, actually, no, you can't really be committed if you don't do this. Can you be disciplined or not? Actually, no, you can't. You can't really be committed or be disciplined if you don't do this, because this ties it all in together. You just have to have this. So you invest in your skill level daily. Not once a week, not once a month, not once every quarter, but daily. Daily. What are you putting into your brain daily? When you drive down the road, what are you putting in your brain daily? Are you listening to the most coolest rap song in the world? Are you like big into politics and you're listening to CNN, current negative news? Like, what are you putting into your brain daily? Like, how much is CNN or Fox or Britney Spears? How much money are those people making you? Probably zero. They're not making you any money, okay? So what are you feeding your mind? Like, top performers thirst for knowledge. So they thirst for knowledge. Like, I'm telling you, like, I still thirst for knowledge. People ask me like, people ask me really random weird stuff on Q&As. Like, what do you listen to when you drive down the road? Well, I'm not listening to like greatest hits of the decade or, biggest pop hits of the week. How would that help me? I'm listening to business stuff. How do I scale the company? I'm listening to sales. Well, you already have sales. You're a sales trainer. Why would you listen to other people? Well, because I can take what they have and maybe make it better. I can learn something. Now, there's some stuff I listen to that's like really, really bad. I feel like I'm losing brain cells. But there'll be like one little golden nugget, and I'll be like, wow, we could do this and take it over here and do this with it, and we're going to be better because of it. So what are you putting into your brain? Like this, besides Mental Mojo, okay, I can get you guys a discount code. I'm just joking. Besides Mental Mojo, what are you doing? Like, you have to thirst for knowledge. It's got to be the right knowledge. You got to learn from the right people. Now, I was telling a few of you last night, when I first started 7th Level 3 years ago, I hired all the gurus, I bought all the courses, about how to construct webinars and how to do all this. And it was like my brain was going two ways, because I'm like, okay, they would say, you got to sell like this on the webinar because webinars are different. People are different than if you're selling one-on-one or if you're selling into a group. Like, webinars are just different. And here's my background in psychology, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. So I tried their way. We did a bunch of webinars. We'd get like 9, 10, 11% conversions with a $500 offer. And then finally, about a year ago, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of what they have, like the structure, and I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do what I know works with human behavior, what I'm an expert in. And our conversions went from like 10, 11% to the last two we did 52, 57%. That's a big difference. So you have to learn from the right people. You have to take sometimes what they say and be like, okay, that's going to work here this way, but might not work so well over here. And you have to know how to adapt that, because it's not just one shoe fits all there, okay? One size shoes fits all. So when you're driving down the road, like I said, first person I ever learned anything about sales, Brian Tracy, make your car a university on wheels. University on wheels. You can become so educated by just driving down the damn road. I learned so much more about psychology and behavioral science by driving down the road than I ever did of 3.5 years of schooling on behavioral science. I dropped out my last semester. 13 credits away. But I didn't care. See, I learned a lot more, 10 times more, 20 times more, by making my car a university on wheels. So when you're driving down the road, you should be listening to things that are going to make you more money, okay? If you want to learn how to invest, well, you got a university right there on wheels. Just pop in something, okay? I see all these people, online, and how to invest in this, how to invest in that. Never invest in anything unless you learn what it is, okay? Otherwise, you're crazy. So make your car a university on wheels. And then, what's your biggest expense in life? You've probably heard me say this all the time. What's your biggest expense in life? Anybody know?
Lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. So write that down. Your biggest expense in life is your lack of knowledge. Okay?
Ignorance tax.
Yep, it's the ignorance tax. I like that. It's your biggest expense in life. Like, I want you to also write this down. You have to become so good, so great, that people cannot ignore you. You ever heard that from Steve Martin, the comedian? You have to become so great that people just simply can't ignore you. Like, it doesn't matter your background, where you came from. Like, when I got into sales when I was 20, I barely turned 22. I was getting into a company and everybody was way older than me. Most of them. There was a lot that were my age, okay? But most of the top performers were 10, 15 plus years older, okay? How did I separate myself? It wasn't like I came from a background and the CEO knew my dad and they were both buddies and at Harvard or Yale. I didn't have any of that. I was born in a trailer park in Arkansas, okay? Didn't have any of that. But what I did is I had discipline and I was committed to outlearn all of those people that were getting all of the rewards, okay? So within 1 year, because of my commitment, my discipline, what I was learning from behavioral science, applying it to selling, I outsold everybody in that company. At that time, there's probably 350 salespeople. Okay, it was a younger company, all right? Within a year from that, I was the vice president of sales of that entire company, and I was managing all those people that were 15 and 20 years older. And they respected me because of my performance, not because of where I was from, or I had this degree, or just anything like that. It was because I became so good that nobody could ignore me. The CEOs would have me in the offices, like nobody could ignore you. So when you become great, nobody ignores you. You have your own status at that point. That is all up to who? You. You control, I mean, isn't that great how you control your own destiny? You literally have full control of that happening or not happening. Nobody else controls that but us, okay? All right. Now, lack of knowledge, I want to talk about this, then we're going to dive into the sales process, okay? Lack of knowledge, I always do this, and I want you to start thinking about it. I do this with everybody. I did this on the webinar that we did back in the end of August, okay? Write down on a piece of paper, just keep it to yourself, how much money you made last year. Write that down, don't tell anybody, it's your secret. Write it down. How much money did you make last year? Was it 20 grand? Was it 50 grand? Was it 40? Was it 80? Was it 120? Was it 200? Whatever it was, write that down. How much money did you make last year? And then right above that, write out how much you want to make in the next 12 months. So let's say if you're an above average salesperson, you make 80 grand last year. Okay, that's above average. That national average here in the United States is about $41,000. Okay, that's the average in any industry. Let's say you're way above average, you make 80. Well, how much do you want to make? Let's say it's 200,000. You want to make 200,000 in the next 12 months, okay? So write down whatever your goal is that you want to make in the next 12 months as a sales professional, sales manager, whatever position you're in, and then right below that, have what you made last year, and I want you to subtract that. What's the difference? So let's say your goal is to make 250,000. You're a big thinker. You're like, I want to make 250,000 commissions the next 12 months. And let's say you made 70 last year. 250 minus 70 is what? 180? Circle that number. That's your biggest expense. Right there. That's your biggest expense. So circle the number. That's your biggest expense. That's what you paid life last year because you still haven't learned the right skills. You still are not 1,000% committed. And you're still not disciplined enough to be able to make that. So the question you have to ask yourself is, are you willing to pay life another whatever that number is in the circle in the next 12 months because you still haven't committed to doing those things? You with me on that? Okay. All right. Now, let's go ahead and get into the good stuff here.